Hi, my name is Nicholas. Welcome to this week's Hatha practice. For props for today, a couple hard blocks and a soft block will be handy. And then I will offer a bind at some point, so if this kind of stretch is uncomfortable for the shoulders, then maybe a strap as well. And then we'll end with wall pose. So if you do have a little wall space, then that will be handy. You can also do it in the middle of the room. When you're ready, we'll get started down on the back. I'm going to suggest a reclined butterfly, so you might have your hard blocks on either side of the mat. And if for any reason lying on the back isn't what you're needing right now, then feel free to start off in a tall seat, or you could come to child's pose or something like that. Any quiet, symmetrical shape. Take your time to get nice and comfortable, whatever you're choosing, using any of the props that you have around for a little extra support. And if anything feels a little fidgety, give yourself a little movement, maybe a gentle rock to help yourself settle in. Find a comfortable spot for the arms, make sure the head feels supported. And if it feels okay to close down the eyes, then go for it. Otherwise, find an unmoving spot to gently gaze at. And when you do feel settled in your chosen shape, start to check in with the body. You might take a scan from the feet to the head and notice everything along the way. There might be something in the body that needs a little extra care today. And you are always welcome to modify your practice in any way that you need. If I offer a shape that's not quite working for you, feel free to find an alternative, or you could skip it altogether. And maybe what you need is something more restful today. You're welcome to add in any breaks that you need for yourself. Pausing in stillness for as long as you need, whenever you need. And for now, as you continue to check in with the body, start to notice the gentle flow of your breath. Gently let the breath start to deepen. Noticing the rise and fall of the chest and the belly. With each inhale, exploring a sense of space in the body. And with each exhale, a grounding and a softening. You can stay exactly as you are for as long as you need. And when you feel ready, you might reach down and gently guide the knees back together. You can pause with the feet wide and the knees together, or if you like, you can start to windshield wiper the knees side to side, moving nice and slow and continuing to check in here. Maybe there is a sticky spot in the hips or somewhere else that you want to work through. You can keep this going for as long as you need. When you feel ready, you can collect the knees into the chest. And take a knee in each hand and then start to rotate the knees in any direction. And then change that direction as you're ready. And keep going with this, or if you like, find Happy Baby. And it's still early in practice, so it may not be as deep an expression as you'd find later on. You can catch hold of the feet, the ankles, or the shins, and you can keep that gentle rock going side to side. All right, if you have Happy Baby, you can let that go, but keep the knees in your chest. We're going to head to a tabletop position. So you could either start to rock and roll up and down the length of the spine, maybe a few times to massage out the back. If you prefer to roll down to one side, you can do that as well. Eventually building up enough momentum to come up to a seat, and then you can swing the legs around and come and find your tabletop position. Setting up the hands roughly underneath the shoulders, the knees roughly underneath the hips. And if you need to modify in any way, maybe working from fists or from hands to blocks, then go for it. And we'll flow cat-cow here. So as you inhale, let the belly sack down, lift the heart space, lift the tailbone. And then as you exhale, press the hands to the floor and gently dome the upper back. Inhale, release through the front body, lift the gaze perhaps. And exhale, gaze in towards the belly button, round. And keep going with your breath at your pace. And if there's anything extra your body's asking for, feel free to add that in. No matter how you're moving here, see if you can move with your breath. Moving with a whole inhale and the whole exhale. The last few rounds here, so if you've added anything that has two sides, just make sure you're about even on both. Your next exhale breath, return to your tabletop position. And then from here, lower down onto the forearms. Elbows now roughly underneath the shoulders, and you might take the hands together if that's more comfortable for you, or keep the forearms parallel. And then step one foot and then the other to the back of the mat. Setting yourself up here, and you can lower the knees anytime for a more supportive version. If the low back feels a little sensitive, you might think about lifting the bum a little higher or work from the knees. And then find that length from the heels to the crown of the head and breathe here. Maybe the face is scrunching up a little bit, or there may be something else that's holding that doesn't need to be that you can let go. See if you can find that smoothness to the breath. Last couple deep breaths here. All right, take a deep inhale. With your exhale, you can lower the knees and the pelvis, then start to lower the chest down. And take the hands out in front, maybe slightly to the sides. You can do fingertips or you can do palms flat. As you're ready, press the toenails to the floor, and with an inhale breath, lift the heart space to center. As you exhale, look towards that left shoulder, dip the right one. Inhale, center, and then look towards the right, dip the left. Make this movement whatever you need it to be, and flow side to side with your breath for a few rounds. And 2 more each side. When you complete your last round, inhale up through center, and then with your exhale, lower the chest. Hands under the shoulders, press the tabletop, and then you might keep the knees together here, bring the hips towards the heels, and start to drape the chest over the thighs for your child's pose. Take a moment to see if there's anything you can adjust or add into the shape to make it feel a little more steady. And you can stay right here, or think about extending the hands towards the top of the mat, and then walking the hands towards the top right corner. And keep that left hip nice and heavy. You might cross the left hand over the right and see if you can find that deep stretch through the whole left side of the torso. And then slowly start to walk everything back to center. With the arms extended, start to walk them towards the top left now. The right hand can cross over, right hip stays nice and heavy. Find that stretch for the right hand side. And then walking everything back to center. Keeping the arms extended forward, spread the fingers nice and wide, and then grip the finger pads into the floor. And from here, make your way up to tabletop, and then we'll tuck the toes, lift the knees, and press the hips up and back, finding downward facing dog. And take a moment to enjoy that stretch for the back line of the legs. You might pedal out the ankles. You might shift the shoulders a little bit, and if you need to adjust your base, maybe widening the hands or the feet, or the distance between hands and feet. Doing anything you need to do here. And then when you're ready, you can come and find your stillness in the shape. See if you can find a sense of stability, a sense of strength, keeping the hands and feet actively pressing into the floor, finding that downward slope through the spine. You can let the head hang nice and heavy here. And then notice your breath, and even here, that sense of space with each inhale. Maybe it feels like the shoulder is getting a little broader or the spine a little longer. And with each exhale, that grounding and that softening of anything you don't need. From your downward facing dog, as you feel ready, take a big step forward with the right foot, and then bring the left foot a little closer so you can bring that heel down to the floor. And tone the belly, press the feet down, and as you're ready, you can slowly come make your way up. We'll set up Warrior 1. So for this one, the feet are mostly pointing forward, but you can adjust if you need to point the back foot out a little bit or adjust something else to make it feel more steady. And then sometimes if this shape feels wobbly, it's helpful to take the feet a little wider apart side to side. And check in with the pelvis, notice if the right hip is ahead of the left, and see what you need to adjust to bring the hips in line with one another. Check in with that back ankle. See if you can put a little more pressure through the heel. You might find a nice stretch for the calf. And you can always lengthen or shorten the base any way that you need. Maybe a slight tone, pubic bone to belly button, especially if you feel like the belly is spilling out here a little bit. And then that length through the spine, that space across the chest. An option with the arms would be to keep them by your side or reach them to the ceiling. Instead, you might interlace the fingers and then press the palms away. You can keep the palms pointing forward if that feels good in the body. If you prefer to have the arms reaching towards the ceiling, then go for it. Just make sure that this works for your shoulders. And wherever you are, breathe. All right. If you have the bind, you can release it. Reach the arms up deep. Inhale. As you exhale, scoot the back leg open, so left foot now pointing out towards the left, and then sink back in. This time we'll find Warrior 2. So adjust anything that you need. Front foot mostly forward, left foot mostly to the side. Find a depth that feels appropriate, sustainable. Arms can reach, shoulders can be soft here. And think about flexing the hands once again, almost like you're high-fiving the wall in front and behind you. And gaze can be forward or to the side. As you flex the arms, notice what happens to the shoulders and see if you can keep just a little bit of a sense of a softness there. All right, you can let go of the arms. With an inhale breath, reach the arms up, extend the front leg, parallel the feet. And then with your exhale, hinge forward, come and find a wide-legged forward fold. Check in with legs, the low back. If you need to pedal it out a little bit to help yourself set up, then go for it. Blocks nearby might be helpful as well. And you're welcome to stay in a halfway lift shape if that's better for the spine. If you're okay folding, then go for it. And then the option here is if you want to interlace the hands behind the back, and you can either keep them there or start to reach them towards the ceiling. Notice the feet here, the ankles. Notice if there's somewhere that you're pressing more firmly, maybe it's the toes or the heels, and see if you can even that out through the sole of the foot. And from your forward fold, if you have the bind, you can let that go first. And you might choose to find your blocks here and find your halfway lift. Then we're going to turn the left foot out a little bit, and you can spin onto that right heel, maybe toes towards the ceiling, heading towards a side lunge. So see where you need to be, and you may find that maybe your base is a little bit too long. Maybe that's not working. For some people, the left heel will lift up right away. So if that's happening, you're welcome to slide a prop underneath. It's not bad if it's lifting, but it may feel more grounded to have something up against the heel. And then hands might need to stay down the whole time for balance, especially if it feels like you're going to fall out. You could also extend them forward for more challenge. Maybe there's a different bind you want to explore here. I'm mindful of what's happening through the rest of the body, so keep that right heel pressing to the floor. And if you have a tendency to hyperextend the right leg, maybe keep just a slight bend there. Make sure you're still breathing here. Stay here, one last inhale. And then with your exhale, you can bring the hands to the floor. Slowly lift the hips back to center, and we'll crawl the hands all the way towards the top of the mat. Point all 10 toes forward, and then lower the back knee to the floor. You can heel toe the right foot to the right edge of the mat. And then we're going to set up for a lizard lunge here. So hands are to the inside of the right leg, and find whatever angle with that right foot feels the most comfortable for ankle, knee, hip. You're welcome to stay in center, or I'll talk through a twist, and I'll also talk through the quad stretch. So if the foot's out of reach, then you're welcome to use a strap here as well. If you're coming with me for the twist, right hand to the right thigh and start to peel the chest open towards the right. You can stay here. The option to bend the back knee, you might need to take the hips back a little bit to catch the foot and then bring it back forward with you. Also, maybe you're working from that left elbow or elbow on props. Be wherever you need to be. Breathe with whatever you're feeling. And we're here for just a few more breaths, but mindful of that left shoulder. If you're feeling pinching there, if it feels like you're collapsing there, see if you can keep that arm just a little more active. If you're holding the back foot, you can gently release it, bring both hands to the floor, and now walk your feet back into center. Spin all 10 toes, You can bring your blocks with you if you like. Now all 10 toes towards the back of the mat, and this time we'll step forward. We'll find a forward fold here, and again, if you need to be in more of a halfway lift, then that's fine. Option, if you have space to do so, is you can lift the feet and slide the hands underneath, palms up, fingers pointing towards the back of the mat. See what this feels like. If it's taking you in too deep, then you can release it. If it feels okay to let the spine go, then go for it. If you're standing on the hands, then you can gently release them. Maybe coming to a halfway lift shape, take a deep inhale, and then sigh it out. Twice more. Inhale, and exhale. Last one. Now to transition, inhale, find your halfway lift. Step the right foot towards the back of the mat, but far enough that you can have the heel to the floor. Tone the belly, press the feet down, and then as you're ready, come on up, and we'll find Warrior One on the second side. And take your time to set yourself up, find the proportions of the shape that feel best for this side, and it's okay if it needs to look a little different to the first side as well. Keep that back heel nice and grounded, find that nice stretch through the back line of the right leg. Feel the stability through the ankles, the hips nice and level to one another. Spine tall, shoulders soft, belly slightly toned. If you're finding the bind like we did on the first time, this time cross the hands to the awkward clasp and press the palms away from you. Stay here. If you like to take the arms up, go for it. Mindful of the shoulders if you're doing so. Notice your breath. All right, take a deep inhale here, release the hands. As you exhale, open the back foot up, and you can release the arms to parallel for your Warrior Two. And then check in here. Make any adjustments that you need. Reaching the arms, a little softness for the shoulders, that tall spine here. Maybe you're flexing the wrists once again. Imagine that you're really pressing two walls apart here. All right. Feel your feet press to the floor. With an inhale breath, extend the front leg, reach the arms up, parallel the feet, and then swan dive to your wide-legged forward fold. See what adjustments you need here. And see the version of forward fold that feels best. If you are interlacing, again, choose the awkward clasp with the arms, just to keep things even for the shoulders and the wrists. Maybe reaching that fist up towards the ceiling. If you have the bind, you can gently release the arms, hands to the floor or to your props, and find a halfway lift. And you might take a block to each hand here, spinning the right foot out to an angle, pressing down through the left heel to lift the toes. And if you need to shorten or lengthen your base, then go for it. Finding your side lunge, second side. That left heel stays active to the floor. Find that stretch through the inside, through the bottom of the left leg. Maybe hands for balance or prayer or something else. And then breathe with whatever you're feeling here. Hands can release if they're lifted, and then slowly lift the hips up to center. Crawl yourself into a lunge facing the back of the mat. All 10 toes facing back, and drop the back knee. You can heel toe the left foot to the left edge of the mat. And setting up for your lizard lunge, check in with the ankle, knee, hip. Make sure that they're all okay with the shape. And then either choosing to stay in center, or you can set up for your twist. Right hand to the right thigh, or left hand rather, and then start to peel your chest open towards the left. You can stay here. You can find your quad stretch if you like. Maybe you're lowering to that right elbow. Mindful of the shoulder. Keep that slight external rotation going. Find that sense of stability. Hand roughly underneath the shoulder. If you have the bind, you can gently let the back foot go, bringing both hands down to the floor. And now a little different this time, lift the back knee, crawl yourself to center, and then all the way towards the back once again. Heel toe the right foot to the right edge of the mat, and then step the left foot to the left edge, sink the hips, and we'll find squat. Check in here. Maybe you need a little something for the hips before you settle to stillness. If you want to prop up the heels or the butt, go for it. Hands can be to the floor, hands to prayer if you like. Find that length through the spine. One option to stretch the wrists a little differently here would be to bring the backs of the hands together. Just be mindful of what's going on, and if it feels like the knees are pressing the hands together too much, then maybe create a little resistance with the elbows. All right. If you're with me in the squat, then lift the hips up. Come towards a forward fold. We won't stay here for long, but see what feels like a nice counter stretch from the squat. Maybe pedal the legs a little bit. You could also walk the hands forward, maybe rock onto the heels, stretch out the back body. And then when you're ready, we're going to sink the knees down to the floor out in front. And keeping the toes tucked underneath, finding a toe squat here, or kind of like a toe squat. As you bring the hips towards the heels, if the sensation through the feet is too intense, then please come up. And you can also come in and out of the shape If that feels better, maybe even flow with the breath. If it feels okay to pause, then go for it. Just make sure it's a pain-free expression. Some intensity is okay, just no pain. And make sure you can still breathe here as well. Last little bit here. All right. When you feel ready, you can rock forward and then untuck the feet. And then I like to tap the tops of the feet down to the floor. And you can tap them as hard as you like. See what feels good for a release. You could also bring the hips onto the heels, almost like rock pose, and then maybe rock back a little bit. This might offer a nice stretch for the ankles as well. When you're ready, you can come back up. And then we'll come up to a tabletop position. Lowering down onto the forearms. And once again, setting up for forearm plank so arms can be parallel or hands together. If you want to skip the forearm plank, you can come straight down to the belly if you like. Otherwise, stepping one foot, then the other to the back of the mat, the option to lower the knees for a more supportive version. Keep pressing the elbows into the floor, find that stability, that length through the spine and the shoulders. Keep the backs of the legs nice and active, the neck nice and long, and breathe. Last couple of deep breaths. Stay here, one last inhale. With your exhale, lower the knees, the pelvis, the chest down to the floor. And take your arms down by your sides. And maybe turn the head to one side. Pause for just a couple of breaths. As you feel ready, we'll set up for locust pose. So you can keep the hands by the sides, maybe palms flat to the floor, or you can grip the edges of the mat. Keep the pelvis really grounded, and then press the toes together, press the toenails down to the floor, feel the legs get active, the kneecaps will lift up off the floor. Now, nothing has to lift up that you don't want to, but when you're ready with an inhale breath, lift anything you like up off the floor, and then check in to see how that feels. Make sure it's a pain-free expression. Think about that length. If you're lifting the feet from the toes to the crown of the head, the arms can stay out behind you, or if you want to go for an interlace, then go for it. And then make sure you're breathing. And if you need to come out sooner than what I cue, then go for it. Otherwise, stay here for a few more deep breaths. If you need a little longer, then stay. Otherwise, release your bind. Slowly lower everything to the floor. And then stack the palms under the forehead. Give the hips and the heels a little rock side to side. And before we move on from here, take a moment to check in. See what would be the most beneficial for you. I'll offer 3 options here. One is you can come back to locust pose just like we did. If you want something a little more gentle, you could think about Sphinx pose, staying on the belly, elbows under the shoulders for a passive back bend. Or if you want, you can come with me for bow pose. If you're coming with me for bow pose, you can reach back for the feet, and sometimes taking each leg wide so that you can catch the foot, and then bringing it back to center might make the shape a little more accessible. And keeping the knees roughly hip distance apart, and then from here, press the pelvis down to the floor. And think about lifting anything you like up off of it, but this time kick the feet into the hands and see what that feels like. See if it starts to bring you up. Find that length through the front body. Shoulder blades are kissing each other behind the back. Keep a little length through the spine as well. And if it feels okay on the belly, you could also gently rock here. Maybe inhaling, lifting a little, exhaling, dropping a little. Be wherever you need to be. And you can come out whenever you feel ready. All right. When you do feel ready, you can gently release the feet. Stack the palms under the forehead once again. And this time it might feel nice to slide the left knee up towards the left-hand side, almost like a tree pose, but on the belly. If you have the left knee up, you can switch it for the right as you're ready. And re-extending the right leg as you're ready. And returning the hands under the shoulders. Press up through a tabletop. And then you can press back to child's pose. Knees together might feel a little more supportive for the low back. And if being in child's pose doesn't feel good here, feel free to come up to a kneeling shape instead. With the support of the hands, slowly start to walk the hands in, lifting the torso up, and then you can slide off to one side. We'll come and find a comfortable seated position, so maybe cross-legged or something else, and you can come to sit up off of one of your props as well. And check in. If it feels really effortful to hold the spine up, then maybe a little more height under the hips might be useful. And take a moment to lengthen the spine here. Maybe soften the shrug muscles a little bit. And we'll set up for a twist. So you can circle the arms up to the ceiling with an inhale. And then with an exhale, twist towards your left and let the hands come down wherever they land. So they might be down to the floor. Maybe you want to take the right hand outside the left knee. Maybe that will twist you a little deeper. And if the floor feels a little far away, feel free to bring a hard block in. Keeping the spine tall, and if you like to take the gaze over the left shoulder, then go for it. As you're ready with an inhale, unravel to center, reach the arms up towards the ceiling. And then as you exhale, twist the opposite direction. You might set yourself up a little bit different for this side. See what feels best in the body. And continue with that length in the spine. Maybe the gaze over the right shoulder this time. As you're ready, inhale breath, unravel, reach the arms up. Back to the first side for a counter twist. Inhale, reach up through center. And last time to the second side. Inhale, reach through center. And then release the arms, give them a little shake. Give the legs a little shake out as well. Tap for the knees, windshield wiper for the feet. And then back to a comfortable seat. If you were sitting cross-legged, you might switch the direction of your cross to keep things even for the hips. And take a moment to settle the hips, to lengthen the spine. And then a little differently here. And take the left hand and then wrap the left fingers around the left thumb, reaching the left arm towards the left, and then start to extend the inside of the wrist out towards the wall. And you might find a nice stretch through the outer side of the wrist and into the forearm, the hand. If it feels better to rest it down or onto a block, then go for it. And then option from here to take the right ear down towards the right shoulder, and that should extend the stretch maybe all the way up to that ear. If this feels like plenty, you can stay here. Otherwise, you might take the right arm and without pulling, more so to use the weight of the arm to deepen the stretch. Make sure it feels like a pain-free expression. And whatever your expression looks like, be with your breath. And gently release the right hand. You can bring the chin in towards the chest and then maybe take it over to the left-hand side for a moment. And then back to center. And lift and stack the head on top of the spine. Delicately releasing the left hand as well, maybe giving the wrist a few circles in each direction. And then when you're ready, we'll set that up on the second side so you can wrap the right fingers around the thumb, reaching like you're pointing that thumb towards the right-hand side. Start to find that stretch for the outside of the right wrist and forearm. If you did so on the first side, then maybe left ear towards left shoulder, see what that feels like. If it's plenty, then stay. Otherwise, maybe left hand to cup the head. And breathe with whatever you're feeling. you have hold of the head, then you can let that go. And gently bring the chin in towards the chest and then over to the right hand side. And chin in towards the chest, over towards the left. Releasing the right hand anytime. And you can rock the head side to side a couple more. Maybe exaggerating those half circles a little bit. Awesome. The next time the chin comes towards the chest, pause. And then keep the spine tall, but make the head really heavy. Option from here to interlace the hands behind the skull. Again, not so much to pull, rather to add some weight. And find that stretch through the top of the shoulders, through the upper spine. If you have the bind, you can release it. And then very delicately start to lift the head back and stack it on top of the spine. You might roll the shoulders up to the ears and then soften them down and back. Maybe a couple more. And then releasing the shoulders back and down. Give the legs a little bit of a shake out, the arms a little shake out. And then the next shape we'll set up will be Shavasana. So I'm going to talk through legs up the wall. You could also do legs up in the middle of the space, or you could come to a lying down shape. If you're coming with me, I like to have a soft block or something set up against the wall. And then I'll set up almost like a fetal position as close to the wall as I can get, with my bum really close to the wall. So bum and feet on the wall, upper body towards the middle of the room, and then roll onto your back. And you should end up with your hips on top of your prop. Sometimes you need to wriggle a little bit and get in a little bit closer. And then see if the prop benefits you, or if you'd rather not have it, then of course you can take it out too. And then think about extending the legs up, but see what feels like the best shape for them. So maybe the feet are roughly hip distance apart, maybe there's something else. Butterfly on the wall can also be nice if you wanted something a little different. And just take your time to set in here. And find some heaviness through the pelvis, through the hips. You can start to release the feet kind of to their natural shapes. If they want to flop a little bit, let them do their thing. And see what you want to do with the arms. You could leave them down by your sides. You could take them up towards the ceiling as well. And then similarly to the legs, find a little softness for the wrists here. Let the wrists be roughly on top of the elbows, but you don't have to be too specific. See where they naturally land and see how that feels. Another option would be to take the arms to the floor overhead. That might feel nice for the shoulders too. Or anything else that's calling you. If there's anything else that you need to adjust in your space, or if you want to throw a blanket over yourself for something, then go for it. And start to soften back to your natural inhale and exhale. Let your body start to feel heavy as you settle yourself in. wherever you are, take a deep inhale through the nose. A deep sigh out the mouth. And again, inhale. One more, biggest one. And gently release your arms down to your sides. And gently start to bend the knees into the chest. You might wrap your arms around the shins and give yourself a hug, a little rock here. When you're ready, you can roll down onto one side and maybe take a pause for a couple of breaths. Whenever you feel ready, and supported by the hands, start to lift yourself up and then come to find any comfortable seated position. You can sit up against the wall or come to the middle of the space. Find your seat here, gently lengthen the spine, maybe soften the shoulders down and back. Hands land wherever they feel comfortable. And then take a scan through the body, check in here. Notice the gentle flow of your breath. And when you're ready, you can connect the palms in front of the heart and maybe bow the chin in towards the chest. And thank you for sharing your breath and your energy today. Namaste. Thank you for joining me for your Hatha practice, and my name is Nicholas. If you have any questions, please reach out, and enjoy the rest of your week.